They Are Here is a first-person horror game that follows Taylor Fox, a journalist set about investigating reports of UFO sightings and alien abductions. His investigation takes him to Grayswood Farm, a hotspot for strange activity. Before I go any further, I'll just quickly talk about what there is to experience in the demo for this game. At the time of recording, there are 2 playable segments, the demo itself and the prologue to that demo. The demo takes place at Grayswood Farm and is the present day where the story takes place in. This is also what the original version of the demo was, and it takes about 10 minutes to complete. The prologue takes place years before the events of the demo and details the events of the aliens' first contact with humans. Here you play as Michael Anderson, a military private stationed near the area. To make things easier to break down, I'll divide this video into 2 sections, one for the demo and one for the prologue. I'll also have a conclusion at the end to tie things up neatly. Without further ado, let's begin with the demo. As per your investigation, you're tasked with going to and exploring Grayswood Farm, searching for anything that could be of use in terms of getting to the bottom of what's been going on in this area. That means reading notes, analysing material left scattered throughout the home, and taking pictures of anything remotely interesting and relevant to the investigation. You are to meet with Peter Sherman, the man who is seemingly in charge of the farm and the one who has contacted Taylor Fox about the unexplained phenomena. The demo opens up with a text blurb detailing what's been happening at the farm, as well as listing off things that have occurred, such as farm animals being found dead, strange sounds in various parts of the house, figures moving in the distance, the dog acting aggressive, stuff that is pretty typical with UFO phenomena. Once you're past that, you're at the farm. It's nighttime and it's eerily quiet. The lights are still on, but there's no sign of people. You make your way through a small cornfield. Yeah, I know a cornfield in a UFO game, how snazzy, but it does work to great effect here. Until you reach the front door to the house. On the door is a note left by Peter Sherman meant for you. He tells you that he and the rest of the family are currently searching for his daughter, who has just gone missing. He says he's left various notes around the house at different points of interest for you to read through. Your job there is to get as much information as possible for a news report, and even though your contact isn't there, there's still plenty to see and take pictures of in the house. Each room has something interesting to find, whether that's images dotted around or various paper clippings about alien abductions. Some of these have notes attached to them written by Sherman, and I'm going to be honest and say that I wasn't really a big fan of this. If your daughter has been kidnapped, why would you spend time writing a load of notes at various points in your house for someone to find? The note on the door makes sense, but some of these ones are really long. I don't know, the idea that he would do that kills the immersion a little bit. That being said, as far as immersion is concerned, outside of that instance, the developers hit the nail on the head. The atmosphere is exceptional. Every moment you spend in that house is genuinely uncomfortable. I kept expecting there to be a jump scare around the corner, and each time I felt one was about to happen, only for it not to happen, it just made the whole thing all the more tense. It is a very structured demo, and what I mean by that is that everything runs in a set way. You can't take pictures of anything you want, the camera only pops up when it's supposed to, and it is a small house, so there isn't a whole lot to find. Like I said before, it's a 10-minute demo, so it isn't jam-packed with stuff. That being said, it's certainly an impactful 10 minutes. What makes the demo most memorable is when things start to go wrong in the house and the stakes go full steam ahead. I won't spoil what happens in this part, but it is honestly fantastic. Whether or not the final game will have this level of intensity throughout is obviously yet to be determined, but if it's anything like this, then They Are Here is definitely living up to the horror definition. I don't really have much in the way of complaints about it either, outside of what I've already mentioned. I guess there are a few grammar areas in various places, but these are easily fixable anyway. According to the final text blurb, the full game will allow you to explore the whole farm, which in itself could make or break a lot of the things that make the demo as good as it is. Nevertheless, it did more than enough to get me intrigued, and I am more than looking forward to seeing what comes next. Alas, we still have the prologue to cover, so that's what I'll talk about next. The events of the prologue take place 30 years before the demo, still situated at Grayswood Farm. Well, at the very least, close to it. You play as Michael Anderson, a military private stationed at a base beside the farm. This section of the demo essentially covers the period of first contact with the aliens seen in the demo, from the moment they are detected in US airspace to them being on the ground. You are tasked with heading to the site where the UFO lands and identifying what it is without making contact. The prologue starts off with a cutscene consisting of various visual elements relating to the dialogue between two characters. Yes, there's dialogue, voiced dialogue, one of the main things that sets this apart from the demo. Now, I'm pretty sure that for this intro cutscene, the voices are AI generated. The male one is less obvious, so I was a bit 50-50 on that one, but the woman most certainly is an AI voice. I wouldn't mind this too much if the grammar issues also present in the demo weren't as bad as they are here, and in this scene they are quite bad, to the point where it took me out of the immersion.
Delta, I have strong interference. Say again. Communication lost. I try radio on different frequency.
Bit of a rough start. Anyway, they're following an unidentified craft that has entered the base's airspace. They attempt to make contact with it, but to no avail. They watch as it makes landfall and send the nearest personnel available in the area to go and investigate, which just so happens to be you, Michael Anderson. Despite the voices, the intro is still pretty striking. It sets the tone immediately, and while some of the visuals are a bit on the nose, it is presented nicely. If it weren't for the voices reading out the obvious grammar errors, I wouldn't have had much of an issue at all. What doesn't have an AI voice, however, is the main character. Hooray! In fact, I think all of the voices here on out are real people. Either that or the writing is better from this point on. Regardless, I couldn't tell. The main character definitely has a real voice though. Similar to how the demo begins, it's night, you're out in the middle of nowhere, and you get out of a car and set off on foot. This time you'll be trekking through fields and forests, relying on your sensor device which is tracking the UFO. Along the way, you're accompanied by a surveillance helicopter, which lights the way forward. The device technically tells you which way you're supposed to go, but you can also just rely on the helicopter for that as well. Well, at least for some of the way. One thing I'll make a note of here is that the gameplay is even more minimal compared to the demo. There's no reading notes or taking pictures, it is very much a walking simulator, albeit an intense one. It only lasts about 10 minutes, so this is not even remotely a critique, but it is something I think is worth mentioning. I think going forward, They Are Here is going to be a game whose primary focus is on building intense sequences, with most of the gameplay revolving around investigating and not much else. If both the demo and the prologue are anything to go off, that is. This, of course, is a complete assumption, and I could be laughably wrong about that, but I guess we'll see. Before long, things start becoming strange, as both your devices and the ones on the helicopter start acting up, producing random readings as well as a lot of static. The closer you get to the UFO, the stronger this interference becomes. I'll take the opportunity to once again praise the sound department for making this feel extra spooky. Not long after, things go from 0 to 100 pretty quickly, and it doesn't take long for all the lights to go out, leaving you completely alone in a dark, quiet forest. Now I will stop talking before I spoil anything, because you need to go through this part blind. It is genuinely terrifying. At least for me. Even though you as the player have much less involvement here than in the demo from a gameplay standpoint, where the prologue excels at is the presentation, even more so than before. These sequences being scripted doesn't impede the horror because every beat leading up to the conclusion is just so well hammered that it grabs your complete attention from start to finish. How the prologue fits into the final game is yet to be seen, but nevertheless, I was impressed. One thing that came to mind when playing this game is that I couldn't really think of any horror games revolving around UFOs or alien abductions in general. In fact, the first thing that came up when I searched alien abduction horror video game was this game, so I think that says a lot. If anything, it's quite surprising that there aren't more, because They Are Here proves that it is something that's doable and can even be made to great effect if done right. and while we've only seen small, carefully made snippets, if the final game is anything like this, I'd say it could be a winner. I'm not the best when it comes to horror games. I've played bits of Alien Isolation and have done alright. I can just about play Lethal Company. The complex makes me feel unbearably uncomfortable. What I'm trying to say is that you might want to take a pinch of salt when I talk about how scary a game is. But honestly, I do think there is something special here. My only concern is that both the demo and prologue are heavily scripted, so when it comes to thinking about how the final game will actually be to play, we can only guess. Will the horror be less effective outside of these segments? We can't be sure. I can only go off from what has been presented so far, but what I've played was excellent. It's got the tension and the atmosphere nailed, with some interesting set pieces and an intriguing storyline to boot. Fix those grammar errors and it'll be even more compelling. My only draw of concern would be how the gameplay will turn out, but for now I'm okay with it. There haven't been any updates posted in a while, which is a bit unfortunate, but I will be following it all the same and recommend that you do so too. You can try the demo for yourself on Steam, which I will link in the description below. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a like if you did. If you want to see more videos like this one, as well as reviews for other indie games, then be sure to subscribe. I'll very likely do a review for this game when it eventually comes out. Until the next one, I'll see you soon. Bye.